Well, good morning and welcome to Coffee with the Pastors. I'm Pastor Dan Gerrietts, and with me is Pastor Daniel Hanson, and we're with you for the first time since December. I think it's been a long time since we've done one of these because well, in part because Pastor Daniel's been gone. There were some changes in his life that provided some time away for him, and so we're kind of getting back in the swing of things and getting back to doing one of these. We've got a lot to talk about today,
We
right?
do have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
It's good to have
absolutely.
the coffee today to
Yeah, I hope you got your cup of coffee with you, and thanks for joining us, all of you this morning. So let's just start in with the most important thing, which I think is to talk about the birth of the Hanson baby, right?
yes.
Hanson length baby. And
Yep.
so tell us about that. Tell us about your time away and how life is different at this point for you.
Life is a little bit different now than it was in December. So yeah, we welcomed our son Micah into the world on January 3rd. I have to be careful on that because a couple times I've gotten his birthday wrong. It's like I can't get this wrong. Born on January 3rd, in the evening. And yeah, it's what a different world it's been. But yeah, as things we didn't know when Micah was going to come, right? As you never know when babies are going to come. So we didn't know if we were going to have a Christmas Eve baby. His due date was New Year's Eve. So is it going to happen in 2023? Is it going to happen in 2024? Well, he decided he was pretty happy where he was, and so he stayed until January 3rd, and yeah, it's been a joy to be a father. I'm the youngest in my family. Are you the youngest too? Or
No, I'm the third. I'm the third of four.
you're the third or fourth? Okay. Well, as the youngest, I did nothing for childcare, right? Like there was no, I was one of the youngest cousins, and so like the only diapers I ever changed was my niece and nephew, and they were old enough to tell me how to help them do that. So I literally had to ask the nurse in the hospital, like, can you show me how to change a diaper and do a swaddle and all the other things that like I don't know how to do that. But it's crazy to think back now, 2 months ago, it's kind of the shell shock of what is this? There's a human being here that wasn't here before, and this is our baby. And but now to be much more comfortable in that role and not everything's terrifying anymore. And
Yeah. So, that brings back. Did you
uh,
and Amy have this feeling like when they let you go from the hospital, like it was a little bit strange that they would just let you take this new human being home with you? Did you ever have that sense?
Yeah, well, like so at the hospital, it's so regimented. Like, I mean, they're checking everything, and they're checking every couple hours. And then suddenly it's like, okay, you can go. It's like, well, what happens now? And it's like, well,
Right.
well, make sure you get in the car seat, okay? And then you have to figure that out. But yeah, no, it was. I was very grateful. My parents were able to help out in those first couple weeks, which was very helpful to us to kind of figure out what's normal, what's not normal, and fortunately things went well, and so that was a
Yeah, and then you had some paternity leave provided by your letter of call. That's pretty standard across the ELCA now, for moms and dads, to be able to take time away. And so you had 6 weeks of paternity leave, and so how was that? What did you do during that time?
yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, I didn't know I needed it until I was experiencing it, right? Like you want time with your child, but like that time, I mean, 6 weeks might sound like a long time, especially because I know that wasn't offered generations ago, especially to dads. But to have that 6 weeks to really just focus on my vocation as a father and not be worrying about anything else but Micah and Amy and the family was an extraordinary gift. And yeah, I mean, it allowed me to bond more with him, and to embrace that role, to figure out, what does it mean to do this? So now as I'm jumping back into work and the busy schedule that is, like I have a sense of what I need to do, and how I can be supportive in that. But it was also time of great rest. Like, I mean, ironically, because I wasn't sleeping, rest might not be the
Oh,
the word, but um, I mean, I've been in ministry. This is, I think, year 8.
yeah.
And so just to have a little time away to not be worried about what's coming next, even preaching wise to just have a little longer break. It's nice to have breaks on a staff for a couple weeks,
Yeah.
but it's amazing how refreshing and renewing that is. You don't know how tired and worn out you are until you stop for a little while. And
Yeah.
so that's how I was feeling because in the middle of the month, it's like, wow, I just feel like a different person,
Yeah.
even though, I'm taking care of this baby and that's taking a lot of um, stress and other things. It was really refreshing. So a huge gift, and I'm very grateful for that time to be at home.
Yeah, honestly, I was really surprised when you said that when you first came back that it had been a renewing time. That was not at all what I anticipated. I mean, I would have, again, thinking about my own experience when we first had kids and just uh, how reorienting that is in your life and how just nothing's the same. I mean, your life is totally different. You have this sense like it's never going back exactly to the way that it was before. And so I thought that was really cool that that was also a time though of renewal and just like you said, even though you were dealing with other stuff, to be able to unplug from ministry, even in the midst of that, that's pretty cool that happened that way. And then coming back right now to back into church life and into work life and I know for Amy too going back what's that been like for you the reentry so to speak.
Yeah, I like to canoe. And so sometimes you paddle the river and it's kind of slow and you can jumping in right before Ash Wednesday, the river's going pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fortunately, we had done a lot of work ahead of time so that everything I think went really well in the interim to cover the youth ministry stuff. But it was a fast jump in. The river was moving quickly, like it's time to go. But fortunately, being refreshed and renewed, that was good, and it's good to feel that pace again.
Yeah.
But what I think has been most interesting is I think I view my own role slightly differently now like or there maybe that's not the right way to say it, but like there's a different lens, right? Like what as I've worked with the staff to imagine youth programming, we're always trying to support parents, and now there's just a different lens to be like, what do I want my son to experience here?
Yeah.
And it's just a little closer to home than it was before.
Yeah.
And so that's been neat to see, does that change anything? Or what new perspective is there? Because you don't know what it's like to be a parent until you're a parent. And
Gosh, that's so true. I mean, I remember that too, like going from these are the things I've learned about youth ministry and faith formation and youth, and these are the principles, and these are the things that I think are going to work or that I think that families are going to want or need. And then you start to be a family, and then it's like, oh no, this is no longer like theoretical or sort of like,
yeah.
idea based. This is about my own family. Yeah, yeah. And that changes the way that you think about it. That's really interesting.
So I'll be curious as he continues to grow up, to see how does that continue to change and
Yeah.
it's helped reiterate how important conversations are with families, right? To say, what are your needs? How can we support you in this journey? Because that's what we're here to do, right? It's not to run the programs that we think are a good idea, right? It's to support you in your faith formation and your family's faith formation. So excited to see how that continues to grow and in the years ahead. So,
Yeah, which is a great transition actually into the next thing that I wanted to ask you about, which was to talk a little bit about the transition that's coming as our high school youth and young adult director, Christian Carlson, is leaving. He's taking another call up in the cities closer to family to do children's ministry up there. And so for us, that opens up a position. I know you've been at work already and doing some discernment and some conversations with folks about this and kind of laying out some strategies. So you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of how that's been unfolding?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So sad news that Christian is heading up north. So grateful for his ministry here, and as I've started to talk with some families and youth, it's been a joy to hear the impact that he's made, and so it's been bittersweet to hear about all the great ministry that he's doing, but then to know that that call has taken him northward, and that's completely understandable. So, but yeah, so we are, as we say goodbye, we are working, talking to some of our youth and family committees, our education committee, getting feedback from them. Really, we're trying to take, as we look for who the next person might be to fill this position, trying to take a broader view of our whole youth ministry programming. And we're trying not to say, oh, well, just because this is the position that we had before, or this is the way we structured it before, that's necessarily the way that we need to structure it, exactly in the same way in the future. It's the trying to get away from the adage, well, we've always done it that way, so we just need to continue doing it that way. So this month, as a youth and family staff, we are taking a look at each of our program areas and saying what are the most essential components that we see in that. How do we want to grow in those areas? How might staffing look to support that? And asking some questions of our different youth and family committees, education, youth and family, saying, what do you value in the gifts that you've experienced through the ministry here, to maybe help us find out what might be helpful in the gifts that we're looking for that person. And then also doing some one-on-one conversations with some other folks who are very active in youth and family to see, get some feedback from them as well. So we're trying to move that forward and not sit on that too long, right? But also to take just enough time to be able to look at that well, so that we're not rushing things. So that's always kind of a magic middle, right? To say we don't want to wait too long because we love to get someone in and have them be building relationships with people and getting to know folks, but also we want to set them up to succeed, right? And maybe this is an opportunity to structure some of the programming a little bit differently, or move some things around, to open up for the gifts of whoever the Holy Spirit might be preparing to come here. So we're making some movement on that. It's never as quick as we want it to be, but hopefully we'll have a description out sooner rather than later to move forward on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that's so true, that it really is hard to do a search well if you don't know what you're looking for, right? And so that's where those conversations and creating even an informal kind of gift profile is helpful. In the end, you always sort of shape ministry positions a little bit about the gifts and talents of the person that's ultimately called, but you do need to have some sense of what exactly you're looking for. Yeah, and the other thing I think in Christian leaving, I'm so grateful for the progress that's been made the last 2.5 years. When he came, we were in a really interesting spot as a congregation from a staff standpoint, in that we had almost no youth staff at all.
Mm.
Pastor Jones had been called as bishop, and was on his way out, if not already out, and it was just the junior high school youth director position at that time. We hadn't yet brought Carol Detmer on board, and so it was like all of a sudden we had nobody on our staff that was kind of helping lead that from the staff side. And so Christian came in, and between COVID and the retirement of our earlier director right before COVID, there really wasn't a lot happening for high school youth at that moment. And things have been really built up in the last couple of years, and I'm so grateful for that, because it was really from ground zero that things were put back together, it feels like to me. And to have the momentum that we have, to have kids that are showing up regularly on Wednesday nights, showing up regularly on Sunday mornings, that's a really unique and special thing that's going on. And I know you've talked about, Carol has talked about, others have talked about just our deep desire, our youth and family committee, deep desire to make sure we maintain that momentum and try to carry this forward, because Christian's done good work in the time.
Absolutely.
And you have as well, with him and with Carol. So yeah, grateful for that, and grateful for your leadership of that process going forward. So
Well, we're excited to pick up that mantle, and one of our big goals is Christian's last day will be in March, but that's not going to be the end of high school ministry, right? We want
yeah,
to finish out this school year with the same things that we've been doing, and continue to have some summer programming. And so we want to really make it clear that's not going to stop, right? Even as he transitions, we want to continue that momentum as best we can. And I think that also sets up the next person to succeed, right? Who can come in, and yeah, we'll see what the Holy Spirit has in store.
yeah. Sweet. What else we have?
Yeah, well, it's almost spring break. Which which is feels weird this year because spring I think came at the end of January, and so it maybe feels a little bit differently this year. We were able to take Micah out on walks in January and February, so but I know many are taking a spring break as a chance for renewal or time to be away, or also some service and mission with Mission Jamaica coming up. So do you want to say a little bit about that's coming up soon?
Yeah, absolutely. Spring break's always been a unique thing in Mason City. Previous communities I've lived in, I can't recall if there was like a unified spring break week across the schools, but in Mason City, at least Mason City High School, Newman, Nyack for years have had this kind of week off scheduled in the middle of March. And that allows for all kinds of things for families to just be home and relax, to do short kind of local sort of things, or for some to travel farther away to see family or to go to nice places. At Trinity, for those that don't know, we have been a part of a program called Mission Jamaica for 20 years. I think this might be our 20th year being a part of Mission Jamaica. And most of those 20 years, we have sent a team of people on Mission Jamaica, which is it's a mission program called it's a mission program they describe as vacation with a purpose.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a combination of a spring break trip to Jamaica, to Montego Bay or to Kingston. This year we're going to Montego Bay, and you do kind of 3 or 4 days of really significant purpose kind of work in some mission partners that have been used by Mission Jamaica through the years. And then you spend a couple of days enjoying the island and doing what you would do on a spring break kind of trip. It's all kind of wrapped in some spiritual direction, devotional kind of framework. And you get to basically, even though it's a short-term mission experience, you get to benefit from 8 or 9 teams that are going to go this season around you, and then
Mm,
all of the years before. So these long relationships that have been built through the umbrella of
mm,
Mission Jamaica, even though it is a short-term mission trip. So it's a really unique opportunity. This year we're taking 24 people.
mm,
Actually, by the time this airs, we will be back already from the trip. And this is my, I think, fifth time going.
mm,
When I first came to Trinity, it was the youth and family pastor, which was the role that I was in initially. That was their job, was to lead Mission Jamaica. And
mm,
so I did 2 or 3 years, I think, in a row. And then we started to share it among the pastoral staff, leading those trips. And so I think my turn came up in 19, and then this is my first time since then. But we have a wide range of people from Jamaica on this trip, ages ranging from kind of early elementary up to well into retirement,
mm,
single people, several families, some retired couples, kind of just, it's a really nice group. And we're going to be together with a smaller group from a couple of the churches in Stillwater,
mm.
Minnesota. So altogether, we'll probably have 30, 32 people, I think, or so, and be kind of operating as a group together. So looking forward to a great week. We're going to be serving at West Haven Children's Home. For those that are familiar with the ministry partners, we're going to be fully at West Haven this year, providing care for kids. West Haven is a home for differently abled youth and young adults. There are about 5 or 6 cottages at West Haven with different groupings of kids, and you kind of jump in and you interact and you help with the house moms and the daily care, and you do kind of some activities. Some of the kids at West Haven go to school during the days, and you can go and help with the school instruction for those kids. And it's just and then there's sometimes there's hands-on building maintenance kind of stuff too. So lots of different opportunities for people to find where their gifts match the needs of the setting there. So looking forward to an awesome week, and my family is going. My whole crew is going.
Mm.
Molly and our 2 daughters, which is the first time they've ever been able to go along. So we're really excited. But like you said, it's always a little sweeter, honestly, when it's nice and cold here, and that's not going to necessarily be the case. It's going to be pretty nice around here this spring break week too. So.
Well, what a neat opportunity for intergenerational relationships. I think that's so cool that there's such a broad range, And maybe this is just me, but I think there's something about retreat, like being in a different place, whether that's summer camp, whether that's a mission trip, whether that's there's a different sense when you can kind of leave your regular world behind and be in a new place with new people, that maybe God's a little easier to see. Um,
Yeah.
and or yeah, I don't know. I can't even describe always what it is or why it is, but I think there's something about being away and returning that there's power in that journey, and God shows up, as God shows up here too.
Yeah.
Um, but
Maybe it's the vulnerability of it, right? Like being put somewhere where you're not fully comfortable or fully accustomed to it. You,
yeah.
that sometimes opens us up to God's presence. I think Mission Jamaica is a great example of an accompaniment style of ministry. Sometimes short-term mission trips, in my experience, can be really self-serving, and they can be really it's easy to fall into that trap of feeling like we're the people that God is sending to go help or to go do something for other people. And not that that doesn't have some value sometimes, but it can become a little bit selfish, for lack of a better term.
Mhm.
But I think the best, and I think the ELCA talks about this a lot, right? That true mission work is about accompaniment. It's about meeting Christ in and with each other. And my experience in Mission Jamaica is, even serving a place like West Haven, we often receive a lot more as quote unquote missionaries than probably what the residents at West Haven receive. We see Christ more strongly sometimes in them
Mhm.
as we come alongside and just spend times, and they really end up ministering to us, and God transforms us, if we're really open to that and humble in our approach. And to me, that's there's real value in that, right? Talk about being in a different place, a different experience. That's one of the ways that then our lives are changed, our perspectives are changed, and we might become more useful to God
Mhm.
back in our own place. So I look forward to that piece, and um, in particular with a whole bunch of new people going on Mission Jamaica this year, to see how that unfolds for them too. It's going to be exciting.
It'll be fun to hear your stories when you get back of what God was up to during
Yeah,
that week.
yeah, and we are going to do that, by the way, just as long as you mentioned that. April 3rd, I think. Yeah, April 3rd, Wednesday the 3rd at Wednesday Night Live, our team is going to present that night and show some pictures and tell some stories. So if folks want to hear about Mission Jamaica, what happened, or learn more about it, it'd be a great chance. 6:30 on April 3rd here at church.
Awesome. 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 Well, after spring break, something else big is happening here.
Yeah, right. Easter?
Easter, Jesus is coming back.
Jesus is coming back again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Easter. Lot going on Holy Week, right? A lot of things happening. With Palm Sunday and Monday, Thursday, Good Friday. Should we kind of go through the schedule? You want to kind of talk through it?
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful. So, yeah, so Palm Sunday, we have normal schedule on Palm Sunday, but we have Palm processionals with the kids at each of the service. So that I have to say, one of my favorite experiences in Lutheran worship, especially Midwestern Lutheran worship, is the Palm procession, because that might be the one time we get our hands up in the air a little bit.
Just a tiny bit charismatic, not too
Yeah,
much.
just a little bit, just a little bit, just on the 1 week, and we have to have some sort of shrubbery or greenery in our hands to do so. But right there's joy right at that moment as we welcome Holy Weekend and Jesus coming. So Palm Sunday we have our normal schedule, but the kids will be at both services, right? Processing at the end and the beginning of the service for first and second service.
And singing too,
Um,
right?
yes, yep. Um, but then this week we have just one service on Thursday and Friday. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This year we're just going to do 6:30 services Monday, Thursday, and Monday, Thursday's going to, of course, be First Communion for a number of youth here at Trinity, and we remember Christ's mandate to love one another, and we think about how we're welcome to the table, right? As Jesus celebrated the Last Supper as well. So that's kind of what Monday, Thursday is going to be about, right? And Good Friday is going to be actually a really cool cantata, um, somebody who's connected with our congregation pretty intimately, Pastor Larry Day. He is writing a cantata based on the different people in the crucifixion story and their perspective on what happened. And so you kind of hear each of their stories, and then the Trinity Choir and some other musicians from here at Trinity will be doing music throughout that night. So that should be a really cool Good Friday celebration as well on that evening. And then Saturday evening is youth service, right?
Yes, yes. Our middle school and high school youth will be leading an Easter service on Saturday night. So that will at 5 o'clock the normal time there. But we're excited to have them share the good news of Easter and share their gifts. They'll be leading our music and the different parts of our service, and so that's a service I look forward to every year.
I do too. I do too. And we're gonna have some baptisms, I think, that night as well, which has been a long tradition here at Trinity. And yeah, great way to start the Easter celebration, even if it's kind of liturgically a little bit, we're a little bit off. But
We won't
Easter Eve is a thing for us, right?
we won't tell our seminary professors that's
That's right. We hope they're not watching, right? No, it's great. And then Easter morning at Trinity, we're going to follow our regular Sunday schedule, 9 o'clock and 10:30. The one shift from a normal Sunday morning here is that we will have two festival traditional organ and brass services. They will be identical, pretty much, those services, 9 and 10:30. So if you're the kind of person that really loves brass with the hymns on Easter morning, you can come to 9 o'clock where it'll probably be pretty jam-packed, or you can come to 10:30, which will still be a really nice turnout, but you won't have to fight to find a seat. Services are going to be really, really similar at both of those. And so just want to make people aware of that. Encourage folks to invite a neighbor, friend, and Easter morning is always a great time to invite people to worship. We hope it is any weekend here, but there are a lot of special things happening as a part of that service. It's always a fun celebration.
awesome. I'll
Yeah.
throw one other thing in there. We are doing a youth Easter egg hunt, but it is Palm Sunday weekend. So that will be the Saturday before Palm Sunday. So kids 0 to 10 are welcome to come to the church. What's great is we do our Easter egg in the building, or hunt in the building. So if it's rainy or muddy or snowy, which I'm not sure it's going to be snowy this year, rain or shine, we can go. And there's over 1,200 Easter eggs. I counted them last year. And so
Incredible.
it's a great it's really a community event. And so if you have some friends that you'd love to invite and bring them along, please do so. The more the merrier. It's just super fun to have the fellowship hall packed with kids as we do story time and crafts. And then there is lots of energy, we'll say, when the egg hunt comes. And it don't last very long. And so I'm impressed how quickly 1,000 eggs can be found. But
Yeah, that was amazing. Last year I dropped into the middle of that and I couldn't believe the number of people that weren't a part of Trinity necessarily that came to that last year. It was a huge, huge event. So yeah, that was really fun.
So lots of ways to celebrate the story of Easter and Christ's resurrection. And maybe we can close out today in just thinking about some favorite Easter traditions. How do we mark this season? Maybe it's a family tradition. Maybe it's a worship tradition that we've really appreciated in the past. There's so many different ways to celebrate Easter. But do you have a favorite memory from Easter, or a favorite tradition um, that you do to celebrate?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I remember obviously I was a pastor's kid, so church was a big part of Holy Week. As a pastor's kid, we went to all the services, and so sunrise service was a very big deal, as it was in a lot of churches back in those days, in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. I think those are fading in a lot of places. Certainly at Trinity, it's really changed a lot of when people want to go to church on Easter. But I remember the sunrise service in particular because I had a paper route for a lot of my upper elementary, junior high years, and it was a Sunday morning delivery for that
Mm.
paper. And so in order to get the papers delivered before the sunrise service on Easter, I think we got up at like 3:30 in the morning or something. It was like And I didn't even think that it was possible for human beings to be up at that hour. I remember at that age, like it was just unbelievable. But we get that done and then get to church in time. So that was one memory that I had. But two, just the specialness of gathering with people on that morning, particularly the early morning. That was pretty fun to get to do. My family now, one of the traditions that we have done is dyeing eggs. We did a little bit of that when I was growing up, but that's a big thing for our immediate family now. And the fun designs that my family members come up with, and they're hard-boiled eggs, right? So you dip them in dye and you do the crayon and stuff. Sometimes there's stickers, and we let them sit for a while and then eventually eat them, and they're great. But that's a tradition of how long will you wait before you finally crack into those hard-boiled eggs and eat them? How daring are you? But that's one thing that we do, along with handing, we hide some candy, or at least we used to, not so much anymore, but hide some candy around the house too. That's always been a tradition for us. What about for you guys? Or
Yeah,
for you?
I remember dyeing Easter eggs, but my problem is I never wanted to leave them in the dye long enough. I wasn't patient, so mine would be like just slightly blue, right? Because they wouldn't be in there long enough. But yeah, we also had a sunrise service, and I am not a morning person, but that was the one morning I loved was because I think it was some of the energy, and my home church's tradition was sunrise service always started in the dark.
Oh yeah.
And so like you go in there and the church is packed, but you can't see anything. And so they would sing a verse of "Were you there?" But it was "Were you there when God raised him from the tomb?" And then the lights would pop on, and there was just a little bit of fanfare that I loved about. You started in the dark, but you came to the light, just as Good Friday. You ended in the dark, and but yeah, so that worship was always a big part. We had two services on Sunday. I got to go to church twice because they were different services. So that was also a memory, which was always interesting. Later on as an adult, you got to hear two different takes on the Easter story because different people preached, and so that was a neat expression of that. But the other thing, and I still have one of these. I think it's actually on my shelf behind me. There were some ladies in the church that always made butterflies for Easter. So every year for the children's sermon, you got a butterfly that was made out of cloth, and they were different patterns because they were different fabric they used, and they used pipe cleaners. Um, but that was always the reminder of kind of the caterpillar chrysalis new life. But it reminded me the way in which, we're absolutely celebrating Jesus' resurrection from the dead, but we're also celebrating how God's new life comes into the world and how we can see signs of new life all around us. And so anyway, that's always a memory I have of Easter as well, is to look around, and especially here in the Midwest, to be able to see signs of life coming back. And I think for me, that makes resurrection so much more real, right? That it's yes, it's Jesus' body, yes, it will be our bodies, but it's the whole creation, right? That God brings new life into, and that God does that in the present as well. So as I start to see my flowers pop up a little bit early this year,
Yeah.
um, there's just this reminder of, oh yeah, like in the end, God's love and life wins. And sometimes that's hard to see in the wintry seasons, but it's great to celebrate in the spring and as Easter comes around.
Yeah. Living parable for our life. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
lots of good ways to celebrate Easter. So if you have a favorite Easter tradition and want to share it in the comments below, it'll be fun to see how you celebrate Easter with your family or a favorite tradition. So, but yeah, I think we reached the end of our list that we made today. Is there anything else you wanted to mention today, or
No, I'm just so glad you're back.
good to be back? Good to
It's
be back.
Yeah, it's just really, really, really good. And yeah, we're looking forward to we continue to work at our call process for our third pastor, and hopefully by next month maybe we'll have some things to share. We'll see. We keep waiting and praying on that. So, but yeah, but it continues to be just a really, really good time here, I think, for the church and for us together, and yeah, just excited to move into Holy Week and Easter and then see what the summer has in store for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we will be back again soon with Coffee with the Pastors, but until then, may God's blessings be with you, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.